is, just as we discussed about carnality, we're trying to make sure that we weed out anything that is not of the Lord. So while we're studying rapture and the second coming, we certainly don't want to make assumptions, right? We want to make sure that we are always building our relationship with the Lord and understanding what it is He would have us to do. But that means we have to examine ourselves. And so, as we have been discussing in almost 52 weeks now, it's coming up. Well, not quite. May will be the year anniversary of this podcast. So we're getting close. But at any rate, we've had all of these weeks and all of these episodes and of studying what the Lord's will is, leading us up to this culmination of hoping, and the blessed hope that we have to be in the rapture, to meet the Lord in the air. But we want to make sure that we have addressed those areas of potential concern within ourselves. And on that note, let us look at the church that is associated with the rapture. Now, I think I remember. I think I mentioned some time ago that one of God's uh, sacred numbers is the number 7, and so we have now, of course, seen this repeatedly. Right? He had the 7 churches, right? The 7 lampstands, right? And then, of course, and 7 days in the days of creation, and the seventh day being the Sabbath that he set aside to be holy, right? And then also the 7 years that are in the harvest time, and the seventh year is that year of rest for the fields. That's a practice that farmers often used, perhaps even still today. They let the field rest in that seventh year. They don't work it anymore. They let it rest. So that, again, acknowledging that 7, the holy Sabbath, and so that's called the sabbatical year. And then what happens? The Lord also has 7 times 7, right? Particularly when He was sharing with us about forgiveness, right? 70 times 7, which is 490, right? Which, by the way, is also the number of years that He promised. Oh, you say, what are you talking about? Well, if you look, and we're going to Daniel, he speaks about the 490 years, and we'll be covering this as we go more through Daniel. But let's see if I can find that scripture at this moment, if I can put my fingers on it. I was just looking at this, in fact, yesterday, and was so blessed by that. I have so many different notes. I'll oh, okay. So if you go to Daniel 9:24 and 27, and also if you look at Daniel chapter 2, you will see the spelling out of Daniel's prophecy that covers the 70 weeks. And remembering that the 70 weeks, a week indicates a year. Remember, in a year, in the day of the week, in the week year prophecy, when we explained that some time ago, so that we understand that the week is not just a week of 7 days, but each day equals a year. And so if we look at 70 weeks, that's 70 times 7, that's 490 years, right? Because a day is a year. I mean, a week, yeah, a day is equal to a year in prophecy. So we know that that's 490 years because there are 7 days in each week. The prophecy of Daniel is 70 weeks. And he spells that out in Daniel 9, where he talks about the first 7 weeks and then the 62 weeks. And then he adds the final week, which is what we're talking about in the book of Revelation. This time of tribulation is called the seven. We covered this before, but it's the 7 day or 7 day week, right? And that relates to the 7 years of the tribulation, which is what we have been reading about in the book of Revelation. And then, of course, God talks about what? The seven seals, the seven trumpets, the seven vials, all of these sevens, right? And then it occurred to me that when he said, forgive people, 7 times 70, that was, a direct correlation to this 70 weeks, right? 70 days, 70 times 7 days, 490 years, because that is the time that he said was appointed to man. We had this 490 days, and that is granted from the time of the prophecy. Okay, not a total 490 years from the time of the prophecy to Daniel, and again we'll be spelling that out, but 490 years from that time. Now then, if we go 490 years, what happened? He said at the end of that time, the Son of Man or the Messiah would be cut off. That cut off time happened, of course, at his crucifixion and then his ascension. But from that time, from the time of Jesus' ministry on earth to where he was cut off, that moment put us into this this indefinite period of time that he has allowed what is called the time of the Gentiles or the time of the church. All this time we have had the word. The disciples spread the word, the apostles spread the word, but there was no definite amount of time given to that 483rd year. That was at the 483rd year was when Christ was cut off. He ascended. And from then, the expansion of the word has been spread throughout the earth. And then at the culmination of that, because remember, he said the world would not end, or the time of the end would not come until what? Until all the world had received the word of God. That's one of the criteria. So we know that that's one of the criteria that leads us into, how do we know if we're in this 7 year tribulation time? Well, we look for that criteria. That's one of the criteria as to how we can know we're in the end times. Then we looked at Matthew 24 when he described what the end times would be, right? And the beginning of the birth pangs, the beginning of sorrows, and progressing right on through to what we had been reading about Revelation. But that's all about the sevens, right? And how important that is. And so when we're looking for a timeline for the rapture, what did we notice before? I think I said, if you recall, there was, when we looked at the seven churches, I made a comment that the seven churches, each church corresponds to one of the seals. I don't know if you had a chance to go back and reread that. I think I mentioned that to you a couple of weeks ago. But if you can look at the characteristics and what is being discussed in each of the seven churches in order, they correspond to what happens in the seven seals, the seven trumpets, and the seven vials. So if the rapture is occurring at around the sixth seal, as people have discussed and we covered, if that's happening around the seventh seal or the sixth seal, between the sixth seal and the seventh seal, then we ought to look at which church corresponds with that and what was the message, right? So let's read back in Revelation 3. If you will go with me to Revelation 3, we can see who is that seventh church, by the way. What are the order? Do you remember what the order is? It is first the church of Ephesus, second the church of Smyrna, third the church of Pergamum, fourth the church of Thyatira, fifth the church of Sardis, and sixth the church of Philadelphia. So if this corresponds with the sixth seal, the sixth trumpet, and the sixth vial, we should see something here that gives us an indication. Is this when the rapture is supposed to be happening? So what is the message to the church of Philadelphia? And of course, the seventh church, the church of Laodicea. So let's read in Revelation 3, starting with verse 7. Now, he's already addressed the other churches, and I'm reading from the uh, King James or the Sefer version of the Bible. And to the angel of the called out assembly in Philadelphia, write, these things says he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that opens and no man shuts, and shuts and no man opens. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. For you have a little strength, and have guarded my word, and have not denied my name. Who is he talking to? Does this sound familiar? Who is going to be in the rapture? Where is the door opening? Right? Is this heaven opening when the Lord comes down to meet us in the air? Right? Is he talking to whom? He's talking to the people who have guarded his word and not denied his name. Those are also descriptions of the people who will be in the rapture. Those people who have guarded his word and have not denied his name. Behold, I will make of them of the synagogue of Satan, which say there are Yehudim and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Who is he speaking to? Those people who denied the Lord, who say that they are the true Israelites and are not, who he calls are the synagogue of Satan. They say there are Israelites, they say there are people of God, but they lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Who is he talking about? Those people who've persecuted the saints. Those people who've made a lie out of God, blasphemed God. He is going to make come and worship before our feet, to make them know that he loves us. Doesn't that correspond with what we read in John 17:7? Also, is this an indication of what we saw, right, in the rapture, where the saints were brought to the throne of God just below the altar, and they were told to rest and stay a little while, rest, right? Be comforted for a little while. The vengeance is coming. You will be repaid, right? In other words, you will be, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. He is going to repay those people who persecuted. For all the martyrs, all the saints, come and rest until the fullness of the story. So we see this again, all wrapped up in the message to the church of Philadelphia.